Look at these faces. They should express feeling, emotion. These were the prize-winning pictures from a competition on that very theme held by the Paris École des Beaux-Arts. The painters later won the Prix de Rome and were the great artists of their time. That time, the 19th century, echoed with the noise of machines, the sound of operas and the swell of words. And Edouard Manet, in the midst of all this din, gave us silence. Here he is, photographed as a Parisian dandy, elegant, caustic, and laughing. In another picture, he has a faraway expression. There is a distance between Manet and Nada's lens, a moment of absence such as those which the painter captures in his own subjects. Manet has virtually never left Paris. He belongs to this city and is a witness to all the changes taking place. Paris in 1850, the population is just over 1 million. In 1880, it is just under 2,300,000. In 1865, when these snapshots were taken, the city is still a huge building site under the supervision of housemen. It is a work being created in front of the people's eyes. Paris is changing, said Baudelaire. Paris is changing, but my melancholy remains the same. New buildings, scaffolding, blocks, old districts. Everything becomes an allegory for me, and my cherished memories are heavier than rocks. The wide avenues and boulevards, the new districts built around the stations, like the Quartier de l'Europe around Saint-Lazare, alter not only the geography of the city, but also the behavior of those who live there. The upper middle classes settle in the city centre and push the workers out to the suburbs. In these times, an industrialist is 20 times better off than a worker. The French are proud of their past, both royal and revolutionary. Now they have placed their trust in an emperor who vacillates between absolute power and socialism, with disastrous consequences. Paris is the theatre of Napoleon III's ambitions, and it is also the theatre of the ambitions of all those who prosper under the emperor's wings. The place of luxury, of vanity, of financial greed, of pleasure without ideals, of unbridled ambition, writes Georges Sand. Amid the bourgeois society of Paris under the Second Empire, there are also modernist republican intellectuals who are aware of the conflicts of their times, but who are not prepared to sacrifice their fortunes or their privileges. This is Manet's circle, among the audience at an invisible concert which they are clearly ignoring. This is his world. These are his close friends. Zachary Astruc, sculptor and art critic. Fontaine-Latour, painter. Baudelaire and Baron Taylor, collector and connoisseur of Spanish art. Madame Offenbach. Eugène Manet, his brother. Jacques Offenbach and chairs. But it isn't the done thing to depict vulgar objects, modern furniture, in a painting. The public, who has been taught that painting exists to express feelings, to elevate the soul, regards concert at the Tuileries as an insult. Faith in progress is illustrated during this period by the importance of world fairs. This is the circular exhibition centre built for the 1867 fair by the engineer Krantz and the young Gustave Eiffel. It housed 52,000 exhibitors and received 7 million visitors. Industry and the arts came together there. The jury rejected Manet's paintings, so he organized an exhibition at his own expense and caused a fresh scandal. Today, on the site of the World Fair, stands the Eiffel Tower, and in the Gare d'Orsay, transformed into a museum, the official art of the 19th century lives side by side with the works of the artists who destroyed it. For Manet, in one sense, this coexistence poses no problem, for he never wearied of imposing his art on his contemporaries. On the other hand, the public of today is able to appreciate the extent of the gulf that separated Manet from the academic art of his time. For a long time, the success of the modern painters, especially the Impressionists, eclipsed the importance of the official art of the 19th century. The Orsay Museum is today the place of reconciliation between Thomas Couture and his pupil Manet. The renowned painter of the Romans of the Decadence was not a decadent himself when he advised his students to be Parisian as one was an Athenian, to have confidence in their strengths and not to drown oneself in the past. Manet does not drown himself in the past. On the contrary, he uses it as a constant source of inspiration. In taking his subject from Giorgione and transforming it into a picnic, the pupil Manet seems to be taking Couture's advice one step further, which is not recommended, for he is transgressing the code of good taste of the 1860s and attacking head-on the holiest precepts of the painting of his time. He imposes silence on it. The déjeuner sur l'herbe is silent. No tale to tell, no anecdote, no specific setting. 4 figures painted by a fifth beside a river. No allegory excuses the naked young woman her nudity. She is a model who will put her clothes back on again after the sitting. The spectator is an intruder. He will find nothing in the painting to excuse his voyeurism. Manet, in a picture which might seem a parody, says goodbye to the old style of painting. In these times when women's bodies were heavily concealed under petticoats and dresses, photographs of female nudes were passed around as obscene objects. So one can imagine the violence of the scandal created by Manet's Olympia at the 1865 Salon. This is how one of the most famous paintings in the history of art, exhibited in the greatest museums in the world, was received by the critics of the 1865 Salon. One described it as an odalisque with a yellow stomach, a common model. Another wrote, a sort of female gorilla, while yet another feared that the painting might start an uprising. And Théophile Gautier, who in his youth had fought so hard in the name of Romanticism, and to whom Baudelaire dedicated Les Fleurs du Mal, saw Olympia as no more than a crudely provocative, badly painted picture. The painting may be inspired by Titian, but even so it shows a prostitute whose passivity could well turn the spectator into a client. The only emotion apparent in the picture is that of a cat's anger. Finally, and this is unforgivable, Manet shows a full-face portrait of the enemy of the bourgeoisie, a maid, here associated with the plenitude of a bunch of flowers. Olympia aroused what Paul Valéry called holy horror. Émile Zola was the only one to defend this strange artist, isolated in spite of himself, who tried to impose his art in the world of official painting itself, that of the salons. Every year it was here that reputations were made or destroyed by the critics and public. Look at the walls of the 1861 Salon, the first salon where Manet exhibits. He is one of the 3,146 artists allowed to show his work on the walls of the Palais de l'Industrie. Nearly 10,000 paintings are exposed to the voracity of the Parisian bourgeoisie and the critics. To avoid protest from the artists, the paintings are hung in alphabetical order, which creates a curious mixture of huge canvases celebrating contemporary history and small genre paintings or landscapes, while the Salon is in danger of being swamped by a flood of portraits, as Zola describes it. The art of the juste milieu. Neither romantic, for the public no longer wants romanticism, which can lead to revolutions, nor realist, for it refuses to allow art to portray the world as it is. The photographer Richebourg photographed the 1861 Salon, but unfortunately his lens didn't capture Manet's two paintings amid this pictorial cacophony. We have redressed this oversight and included portrait of Monsieur and Madame Manet and guitar player. At the 1861 Salon, Manet charms everybody. The jury awards him a distinction for his guitar player, also known as Spanish singer. They are not too exacting as to the authenticity of his dress or the correctness of his position, that of a left-handed musician playing an instrument tuned for the right hand and who is playing a chord that only an ignoramus could invent. Other visitors to the Salon are enthusiastic about the Spanish singer too. A group of young artists, Le Gros, Carolus Duran, and Fontaine-Latour, who at this time are trying to create a style of painting halfway between Romanticism and realism. They pay Manet a visit. They make him the head of their school. Again, it is paradoxical to see Manet, who was never a teacher, in constant demand as a master. This is shown in Fontaine-Latour's work, painted much later, where Manet is sitting at his easel surrounded by friends who are also his admirers. Otto Schulderer, Zachary Astruc, Renoir, Zola, Edmond Maître, and Basile, Monet. Watch Edouard Manet paint like an impressionist a portrait of Claude Monet, the founder of Impressionism. It is the summer of 1874. Manet is at Gennevilliers, Monet is his neighbor at Argenteuil. Renoir and Caillebotte come to visit them. Manet's paintings from that summer are friendly challenges to the young painters who have christened themselves independent, and for whom the critic Louis Leroy, wanting to ridicule them, has just coined the term impressionism. Manet refused to exhibit with them, and this incensed Degas, who reproached him for his vanity. But he did share in their experimentation, playing with light and color in his own way. Does that make Manet an impressionist? Like his observance of the old masters, the impressionist experience doesn't distract him from his obsession with showing life as he sees it. Monsieur Manet, writes Huysmans, hasn't succumbed to the prejudices stupidly maintained in the schools, thank God. He paints by condensing nature as it is and as he sees it. Manet, who opens a debate on painting that is to last until Picasso, left no theoretical writings. Only a small volume published at his own expense, in which he states, Monsieur Manet has recognized talent for what it is, and claims neither to have revolutionized the old style of painting, nor to have created a new one. He has simply tried to be himself. The 19th century creates the individualism, which can be seen as the declaration of the rights of man, taken literally. Manet is a republican, bound up with the times he lives in. His painting is an expression of these times. Although he loathes the term, he is, in spite of himself, a painter of history. On his walks, he covers the whole of modern Paris from north to south. And in the silence of his studio, he transforms these images of Paris, captured as in a snapshot. These paintings from the mid-1870s have become illustrations of contemporary Parisian life. Under the Second Empire and the Third Republic, cafes are the meeting place for all and sundry. These gathering places have been created by the flourishing urban society. At the end of the 18th century, there were 900 cafes in Paris. By 1900, there are 20 times as many. The cafes were favorite meeting places for artists. Imagine at the end of the 1860s at the Café de la Nouvelle Athènes in the Place Pigalle, sitting around the same table, Monet, Nadar, Zola, Degas, Fontaine-Latour, Basile, Renoir, Cézanne, Sisley, Pissarro, and Manet. Such gatherings could well spark off a revolution in the decadent world of art. Manet is a threat to law and order. Nana, whose name was inspired by Zola in 1877, caused such a furor that the police ordered the painting to be withdrawn from the exhibition at the Giroux Gallery in the Boulevard des Capucines. It is the portrait of a magnificent whore, one of those shared by the Parisian elite, whose main privilege is that of ignoring prevailing moral standards as long as nobody knows about it. Manet and Zola betray their world, that of the bourgeoisie, when they depict it. This man, rigid in his black dress, is treated as part of the décor, of which he is perhaps the donor. Manet sides with women in an era when they have no rights, and gives the whore the same quality he gives all his portraits of women, an air of freedom. Victorine Moreau, 10 years after sitting for Olympia, this time dressed as a lady, a book in her lap, again asserts this freedom. Manet often paints books, or rather moments during reading, which evoke the necessary silence of those moments. Here the silence is contrasted with the din of the Gare Saint-Lazare. Behind the railings of the Pont de l'Europe, the little girl admires the most modern object of the day, a steam engine.